Okay, let's introduce, oh, hi, Steve, I didn't see you down there.
I just snuck in.
Steve Casey, so it's our all-night jock at KRUX in the early 70s.
Baby DJ.
Look at that. Larry Mack, Gary Mack, who was Larry Dean, and you worked at KRUX too
I
before.
worked at KRUX.
Yeah.
I had 2 tours of duty at KRUX and loved them both.
Tommy Wright was our 6 to 10 p.m. jock in, what was it, 69 and 70?
Yeah, I did mornings for a while when Lucky left.
Yeah.
I am the luckiest guy in the world because I made one smart decision in my life. I was 18 years old. I had a job offer. I was working in the middle of the day in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I had a job offer in Portland to do afternoon drive. And then I got a call from Todd Wallace offering me the basement, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning in Phoenix, which I understood was fairly warm. But Todd Wallace had the reputation at that time as being the brightest up-and-coming program director in the entire industry. So I figured, well, in the long run, this is one of the few smart decisions I ever made. In the long run, that would be who I should go to work for. And I did. And so I was the very least among us at KRUX. I filed records during the day in the library. And it was a tough time because I knew nothing. I was just learning. Of course, I thought I knew something, but I didn't. And since Todd did morning drive, that meant he came on the air at 6 a.m. My shift ended at 6 a.m. So, number one, I was no good. Number two, the boss came in and told me every morning what a wonderful job I'd done. So, it was a hell of a learning experience, and I stayed with that. I followed Todd to KTSA in San Antonio, and I followed Todd back to KRUX in Phoenix. And I ended up doing a couple things. I started MTV. Somebody had to do it, and I'm the moron that did. I also put VH1 on the air. And then I moved on to working with J-Corps and a company called, a big research company that they had. And eventually became an international consultant, which is what I do today. I work with radio stations, music stations, in about 100 countries. I have a home here still, but only in the winter. In the summer, I'm up in Montana on a horse farm because with my work, it doesn't matter where I am. And I just drove 1,100 miles to make sure I was here today.
Wow. Thank you, Steve. Larry Dean, Gary Mack, my guy.
Listening to all these stories has really been fun. I started at KRUX and then went over to KRUX. Actually, I did a few months in Colorado Springs at Kissimmee. Transferred down to ASU. Needed a part-time job. Heard about an opening at KRUX from Phil Mata, actually, who told our instructor, hey, we got an opening coming up. I applied, cut a tape, did the interview. Pat McMahon hired me the next day. So I wound up doing 10 a.m. to 3 on Saturdays and noon to 6 on Sundays. 1969, I graduated from ASU and needed a full-time job, and I wanted to get married. And as it turned out, B. Mason Dean was PD at KRUX at the time, and they had an opening, and he called me. He had an idea in his head that he didn't tell me when he talked to me, and I remember going to Pat and saying, you know, I need something full-time, and they didn't have anything at KRUX and didn't anticipate any. And he said, go for it, and don't look back. I then went to Doug and asked him the same question, because I said, you know, I feel badly. You guys have really helped me. You started my career, and I hate to go across the street to compete with him. He said the same thing that Pat did. Go for it, don't look back. So I did. B. Mason Dean hired me, and the first thing he said was, I think I'm going to call you my brother. Yeah, we'll be brothers. You'll be Larry Dean at KRUX like you were at KRUX. And I said, well, that's not right. You're not my brother. You're my pal, you're my buddy or whatever. So and the very first conversation we had was I wound up telling the program director, no. About 2 months later, I think, B. Mason Dean left. I don't know if he left voluntarily or otherwise, and I think that's when Todd came in. Then when Todd came in, Todd taught us all formatics, how to present the music in a way where you're free to be creative. If you have something interesting to say, but you're not intruding upon the music because that's what most people want to hear. And I learned all of that stuff from Todd, I think, and I had a fine radio career. I wound up programming a station in Wichita and then in Dallas-Fort Worth. Got into television in Dallas at the NBC station as a booth announcer and part of the production crew, and worked in the newsroom. And today I'm the curator at the 6th Floor Museum at the Kennedy assassination site in Dallas.
Wow.
So, I haven't spoken or seen any of these guys in decades, and it's just a thrill to be here. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Todd.
Gary, one of his hobbies over the years has been the Kennedy assassination. And it's been fascinating to me to see him parlay his interest in his hobby into what he does today, and into his livelihood.
First of all, thanks to everybody for coming. This has been a real treat for all of us, and I'd just like to take my time to thank Al McCoy and Zim. They actually helped raise me from the time I was 11 or 12 years old, and they were the male figures in my life, along with Kit Carson. But the video referenced low ratings for KRUX in the late 60s, I think it was. When Lucky left and Al left, the place really went to hell in a handbasket. And they brought in a program director, Red Hamilton Walker III. And there was a legendary program director in the United States at that time named Bill Drake. If Bill Drake played the jingles right before the records, we would play them right after the record ended. So the ratings went down, and that's actually, I think, why they brought in Todd, if I recall. But my favorite story, and I was doing nights at the time from like 7 to midnight, and Bob Shannon was on in the afternoon. And my favorite thing during that era was to come to work early and listen to him argue with Rhett on the hotline over the songs that he was playing. And I think sometimes Bob would do it just intentionally to get to Rhett, but that's what I hated the guy. Oh, I know.
I still do.
Tell us how you really feel.
The reason we did this reunion is I was hoping he would show up.
I want to really thank Al McCoy and Zim. And when I was a young kid, 12, 13, Lucky Lawrence used to actually pick me up at 5 o'clock in the morning and take me to the radio station. And I would literally spend the weekend there. And my first shot at doing anything in radio was actually one Saturday when Al was on the air and he had to go to the bathroom. And he said, "Do you think you can start this record after the news?" And I was literally shaking to make sure I got the thing done right. But anyway, thank you all so much for coming. It's just great to see everybody. Great to see everybody up here.
Part of the secret sauce to the success at KRUX was we always had 52 weeks a year some kind of a major promotion going. And we were right on top of it. We were very competitive. You know, if Chris gave away $1,000 a day, we made it sound like we were giving away $1,000 every hour. You know, they started giving away a record company album weekend, so we had a name it and claim it weekend where every song we played we gave away. Just be the first to call in and when you hear a song start. And in addition to having promotions 52 weeks a year, we also had public service projects going literally year-round. After one stopped, we'd get into the next one. And there were not many radio stations in America at that time, actually, doing that. Yeah, we do something once every 3 or 4 months. We did it all the time. And I think it made a big difference. It particularly made a big difference with the adult audience in those days.
Hi, I just had an observation. I think you mentioned it was a DVD that you played, that you started. Is that available?
Put it on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, I'll do that. I'll put it on YouTube, okay? Then you can download it if you want or whatever. Let's do that, all right? I'll put it on YouTube.
The kissing licenses. Kissing licenses?
It was either KRUX or KRUX.
Not sure. I'm not sure. I don't remember that. It was before my time, so it must have been in the 60s.
Was it Guys Kissing Guys? That was it.
No, it wasn't.
Which one was it?
No, it wasn't.
Why? Yeah.
All radio stations have friends at record companies. You don't really want to cross them, but you don't want to do any favors for them that's going to hurt your station. You don't want to put a record on that people aren't going to want to listen to. And I said, I don't think Pat will play this, even if he does get a copy, because it will offend Capitol Records. And that is exactly what happened. We played Let It Be for months, burned it out completely. By the time we were done playing it, Capitol finally put out the single. And Chris had to play it, and it lasted like 3 weeks, and they had to drop it because everyone was sick of it.
The first time the Beatles came to this country, they didn't come to Phoenix, they came to Las Vegas. Chris Beremus was a local Capitol representative at that time, and he and a couple of guys from LA invited me to go up to the concert in Las Vegas. I had with me a little mini cassette recorder, and if you can believe this, I carried that recorder in my pocket into the concert. And I taped all kinds of excerpts of that concert from the Beatles at that time. Tommy may remember it. And that night, I did a whole show from Vegas with playing excerpts of the concert of the Beatles. Today, I'd probably be in Yuma. But, you know, nothing ever came of it. And we had that big exclusive of this thing and went to a private party with John, George, Paul, and Ringo, and had a great time and did that thing on the air.
But if it wasn't for you people sitting back there that listened to us and gave us the ratings we had, we wouldn't be standing up here. We'd be sitting back there with you, and this would be an empty stage. So thank you very much, and I mean that.